Before we dive into today's story, close your eyes for a moment and picture a lonely ranch on the far edge of the Wild West. A quiet place where one man worked the land alone, convinced that love had died with the woman he buried beneath the cottonwood tree. Clay Maddox lived his days in silence, his only purpose found in raising his 2 daughters. He didn't know that everything would change the day those girls came riding home with a wounded Apache woman, one who carried danger on her heels and destiny in her eyes. The sun was sinking behind the distant plateau when the Maddox ranch exhaled the final warmth of another long day. Clay hammered the last fence post into place, wiping sweat from his brow. He paused, glancing toward the horizon where his daughters had disappeared hours earlier. Rose and Maggie had gone to gather berries near the canyon rim, promising to return before dark. Clay trusted them, but the West, wild and unpredictable, never stopped offering danger to the young and the kind. Far from the ranch, Rose and Maggie walked a narrow trail between cedar bushes. Rose moved steady and sure, her calm nature keeping the younger one brave, while little Maggie chattered and skipped, fierce in spirit but small in size. Then Maggie froze. A sharp cry, raw, pained, echoed from below the ridge. Human. Rose hesitated only long enough to grab her sister's hand. Their father would have checked that voice without question. And Rose refused to be any less courageous. They followed the sound down a rocky slope, slipping between boulders and brush until they found her. A woman lay crumpled near a fallen tree, her long black hair tangled with dust and leaves. Blood seeped from a deep gash in her leg. Her breathing was shallow, fragile. When Rose knelt, the woman flinched, her dark eyes flashing open in fear and defiance. Maggie whispered that they should run home for their father, but Rose shook her head firmly. There was no time. The woman's life was trickling away like water through open fingers. Rose spoke softly, reassuring her they meant no harm. Maggie hurried to fill her tin cup with water from the stream, trying not to cry. When she returned, the woman whispered her name, Lana, each syllable weighed with exhaustion. Rose helped her drink, wiped the dirt from her face, and realized they couldn't leave her. Getting her home would be nearly impossible, but leaving her meant death. The girls braced their small shoulders beneath her weight and began the long, slow walk back to the ranch. Clay was washing down his old horse Ranger when he spotted movement on the path. Relief turned to confusion, then fear, then disbelief as his daughters came into view, supporting an Apache woman, bloodied and barely standing. He ran. Rose stumbled into him as he reached them. Maggie collapsed against his leg, sobbing. Clay gathered the woman into his arms, surprised at how light she felt, and carried her into the cabin. He laid Lana on the bed that once belonged to his wife. The memories hurt, tightening around his chest like wire, but he pushed them aside. He cleaned the wound with warm water, stitched it with hands that trembled more from memories than fear, and tried not to think about how strange it felt to lay another woman where love once slept. For 2 days, Lana drifted in and out of fever. Rose cooled her with damp cloths. Maggie brushed her long hair carefully, determined to help in whatever way she could. Clay checked the wound often, surprised by her strength. He had seen Apache warriors before, resilient, proud, but this woman carried something deeper, a quiet endurance shaped by loss. When she finally woke and whispered a faint thank you, Clay felt a small crack form in the wall he had built around his heart. As Lana healed, she began telling fragments of her story. Her band had been attacked by raiders, men with no tribe, no loyalty, only hunger for destruction. She had been separated from her family, wounded, and left to die. Clay listened with clenched jaw. Raiders were a plague. Helping her meant risk. But sending her away was something he could never explain to his daughters, or to himself. Days turned to weeks. Lana learned to walk again, though a faint limp remained. She helped around the ranch, teaching Rose and Maggie how to track animals, grind herbs, weave baskets. Maggie followed her everywhere. Rose listened to her wisdom with a respect usually reserved for elders. Clay found himself watching from a distance, surprised by how quietly Lana was stitching herself into their lives. And into his. He reminded himself she would leave. She had people somewhere, family, a world beyond this ranch. But each time she smiled, something warm nudged its way through the cold that had lived inside him for years. One evening, Rose whispered to Maggie that father didn't seem so lonely anymore. Maggie nodded, saying she'd seen him laugh once, something she barely remembered happening. They didn't know how right they were. Clay returned late one night from checking the northern ridge. The moon hung pale and thin, casting long shadows across the land. Ranger shifted nervously beneath him. Something felt wrong. Too quiet. Too still. As Clay approached the ranch, he saw figures moving beyond the fence line, shadows slipping through the dark like wolves. His blood went cold. Raiders. He grabbed his rifle. Inside the cabin, Lana sat up, her instincts sharpening instantly. She stepped outside and froze. She recognized the raiders. These were the same men who destroyed her band. Clay hissed for her to go inside. She refused. The raiders rode into the clearing. Their leader, a scarred brute with cruelty burning in his eyes, demanded the woman. Clay stood firm. No one was taking anyone from his land. The man mocked him, asking why a white rancher would risk everything for an Apache woman. Clay didn't answer. Some truths didn't need shouting. A gunshot cracked the night open. Clay dove behind the wagon, firing back. Lana pulled the girls inside, whispering sharp instructions. Then she slipped out the side door, bow in hand. Clay saw her move and understood, she wasn't hiding. She was protecting his family. Arrows sliced the darkness. Clay's rifle thundered. Raiders dropped, one after another, chaos curling through the cold night air. But the leader charged, aiming straight for Lana. Clay lunged, shoving her aside. A bullet grazed his ribs, tearing a line of fire across his side. Lana rose, calm as stone, and loosed a final arrow. It hit the leader dead in the chest. The remaining raiders fled into the night. Lana rushed to Clay, hands trembling. His breath was shaky but steady. Rose and Maggie clung to him, their tears warm against his shirt. Something had changed forever. Morning sunlight washed over a ranch reborn. Clay's wound was painful but manageable. Lana cleaned it gently, her eyes soft with worry she tried to hide. In the days that followed, the ranch took on a warmth Clay hadn't felt in years. Lana wove small wooden charms into the girls' braids. Clay found excuses to linger near her, offering help, sharing quiet smiles. One evening, he found her standing at the edge of the property, staring at the hills. He asked if she wanted to return to her people. She said she didn't know if they were still alive, then added softly that she had found safety here, belonging, and a reason to breathe without fear. Clay stepped closer, telling her that his daughters saw her as family now. And so do I. She reached for his hand. He wrapped his fingers around hers. Not a promise. Not a confession. Just truth. The Maddox Ranch had once been a place of loneliness. Now it was a home, rebuilt with courage, kindness, and the unexpected love of a woman the girls had carried out of danger, and into all their hearts.